Hello and welcome back to the show that wastes your time. Ha! Calling this a show. The hubris. This is just me playing a video game. Whatever. It wastes time. You're probably watching this just killing some time. You know, and it's just ultimately like, whatever, you know? If it's one of those things, if you're actually watching, I implore you to watch a little bit more. I'm sobering up, I'll be honest. I'm sobering up a little bit. I don't know how that's good or bad. I don't know. But let's just see how this goes. You know, let's play it by ear. You know, I used to say play it by ear. I think a lot of people say it play it by ear as well. But isn't it play it by ear? Because I was thinking, like, not very long ago, probably a couple months ago, I was like, play it by ear or play it by ear? Well, play it by ear makes a lot of sense because, you know, you're playing a song by ear. You know, it's going to be haphazard, it's going to be a little nuts, but that's just how the haphazard nature of playing things by ear is. Is that the turn of phrase? I hope it is, or else I'm stupid, but what else is new? Me being stupid, who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? You know, I just graduated high school. I couldn't graduate college. I dropped out of college because I'm a genius. The hubris of thinking schooling is dumb, but whatever. The big thing... Oh, I actually got past that part. Look at me, I'm getting better. I'm getting better at video games. It's funny, I actually want to tell an interesting story, so me getting better at video games is the thing I said. I mentioned before that I've had another channel where I made playthroughs, and I'm not going to reveal that channel even though it's still up with a lot of playthroughs. It's still available to watch. But I watched a Minish Cap playthrough, made by years ago, like 8 years ago now. And I think I'm doing better now than I was then. Not in like subscriber count or anything, but when it comes to entertainment value, because I'll be honest with you, it wasn't that good. And I could sit there and go, wow, I had 66 subscribers. That is more than I deserved. Oh, no. Cheaps while fucking water level shifting. You really doing me dirty, game. You know that? You doing me dirty. You know, but that's the thing where it's like I had more subscribers than I felt like I deserved. But, you know, that's just this whole thing where it's like I feel gifted in whatever I do. That was like a big thing, is like I felt like I wasn't doing good enough back then, and I feel like I'm doing good now. I think that's because I've had, like, experience streaming in between then and now. So I have this whole thing I had this thing where I could interact with people. And I've gone on record saying, like, streaming has replaced traditional Let's Plays, and that's really an important thing to distinguish. And I get why, because why would you watch somebody play a game when you can't interact with them at all? But instead, when you can sit there and say, hey, they're playing a video game, and I can interact with them while they play the video game? Holy shit! I get that. And I've gone on record also saying that the reason I don't do that, time restraints. Ultimately, because that's just like a big thing, is like, I don't have much free time, not as much as I used to have. My job takes a lot of time and recovery because it's a very taxing job. And when I mean taxing job, I mean taxing emotionally and physically. If you're wondering what I mean by emotionally, I work a retail/service job. It's both. And I'll tell you what happened yesterday, because this is a funny story. I love telling the story, because I was outright, like, angry at this customer. We had this customer go through, and you know what, I'm not going to reveal my job title or what I do, but ultimately there's this thing where we have to sometimes deny customers for violating company policy. And what I mean by company policy is there's a certain safety regulations we have to follow, either by company regulators or OSHA. And this one guy yesterday did not want to follow that. My boss had already denied him, and he told my coworker, there's this new lady, you know, not to let him through. She let him through anyway. So when it gets to me and my part of the job, it's like, okay, I see how he's violating safety. So I stop everything, and I'm just like, look, I can't send you through. He's like, get your manager. Okay, I get my manager. My manager says, we cannot let you through. He's like, get your manager. It's just like, okay, you can call customer service. You want to contact the regional manager, call customer service. This guy got so angry, it escalated to such a degree. He was like, I'm gonna bring a gun and shoot this place up. And I'm just like, okay, whatever, buckaroo, whatever you say. You invoked the power of, like, threats. Whatever. Now, ultimately, there's this like, okay, you gotta take that seriously. I get that. I think this is an age thing, where I don't take this kind of shit as seriously as other people do. Pre-Columbine person, born pre-Columbine, I get it. So I was laughing, and it was like afterwards my boss is getting angry at him too. It's like, okay, leave, with a back everyone out, deny this guy's service, and it's like, you're leaving right now. That made him angrier. But, and then while my boss was just, shit! So while his boss was backing everyone out, this guy inconvenienced everybody. He kept refusing to leave. He wanted his refund right then and there, not before he let people out. My boss was like, no, I'm going to refund you. Once you're out of other customers' way, we can continue business. He did not like that. But ultimately, it's like you're impeding business. We have to sit there and say, leave. And this guy looks at me as my boss is backing other customers out. He's like, is that your boss? I was like, yes. I feel sorry for you, I was like, no, my boss is pretty good. Because I'll be honest, my boss where I work, he's a pretty good guy. He's awesome. He's from Pakistan. He immigrated to Canada when he was a teenager. Nothing against that. He's really cool. And because of that Canadian personality, he's very understanding. I'm not. So I looked the customer in the face, and I was like, after he said that, I was like, no, my boss is actually pretty good. You, sir, you're a terrible human being. I looked him right in the face, and I was like, you're a bad person. Because ultimately, I think I'm in my right. Because there's this customer service thing, treat people well, whatever. But once somebody is just like threatens to shoot up your workplace because you denied him service, I think I'm within my right as like a purveyor of what I do to say, you're a bad person. I don't think anyone, because I'm not going to get fired for saying that, because, this guy left a bad review today. My boss was like, yeah, he left a 1-star review, and HR had to ask what's going on. So I told HR he threatened to shoot up the place. He threatened me, my employees, and I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, the fact that he invoked that, like, literally gives me every right to say he's a bad person. I don't think anyone is going to sit there and disagree with me. That's, like, the big thing. Who's going to disagree with me calling this guy a bad person? Because, let's be honest, he's a bad person for doing that. So ultimately, it's just funny in the end, because he kept getting madder and madder. And then the point he ended on is like, I'll leave a bad Yelp review. It's just like, bruh, you can't just sit there and say, like, I'm going to shoot up your workplace, and then go, oh, I'm going to end it on leaving a bad review. It's just like, you're supposed to escalate your threats, not de-escalate them. You get what I'm saying? You're supposed to start on the bad Yelp review and then threaten to shoot up the place. You can't just sit there and go, oh, whatever, bad Yelp review after threatening to do that. Because at that point, it's just like, what are you ultimately going to do? Like, we're not afraid of you at this point. Because I told my boss to call the police. And he's like, no, it's okay, we'll just let it slide. And I was like, nah, don't let it slide. Ruin this guy's life. Let's sit here and ruin this guy's life for saying that. But I'm not in charge. I can't make that an ultimate decision at the end. That's me. That's whatever. But I'm like a malicious person in that regard. When somebody is just like outright bad, I'll say, you know what? I want to ruin your life. Like a customer today. Because it's like a big thing as we deal with cars. Like I said, I'm not going to reveal it. But we can't let people through our workplace with stuff in the truck bed, in people's truck beds. And that's what this guy's problem is. He had stuff in his truck bed, the last guy that I told you about, the guy who threatened us. So this guy today, he had a bunch of rocks in the truck bed, and it's like, look, that's a hazard. I can't let you through. You need to sweep it out. He's like, fine, give me the broom. I get him to sweep it out. He's like, I don't need the dustpan. And it's like, okay, whatever you say. And then immediately, what he does, his genius idea, is to sit in the back of his truck bed, okay, and sweep it out. He decides to fling rocks at the customer behind him. And me, because I was standing there. He's flinging rocks at me, probably, because I made him angry, because I told him to sweep it out. But he was, like, hitting, and the lady behind him had a Tesla. If you don't know anything about cars, viewers, Teslas are expensive. They're expensive, fancy cars. They have cameras on it, too. So I went to this lady, I was like, she went through everything, and it's just like, whatever. And I literally went to that guy, I was like, look, no, you're denied. I don't want to see you here ever again. Leave. That's the point I got with him. And it's just like, I'm within my right to say that because, he did something really shitty like that. That's like a really shitty thing to do. Come on, Bullet Bill, give me what you got. Oh. Okay. Ultimately, I guess that's easier. I want to do this the hard way, and the game's just like, nah, we're gonna give you an easy way out. But yeah, this guy thought it'd be appropriate to fling rocks at me in the car behind him. So I was like, I'll refund the money you paid. $17.99 you paid, I'll refund that. Leave. He's like, where's the exit? I was like, right there. Go. Like, I was not dealing with this shit. And that's one thing I like about my workplace is, like, I can, like, if somebody's outright malicious, I can say, no. Go. I just told my boss, I was like, here's the guy's license plate number. Let's ban him. My boss is like, I agree. So this guy probably just banned himself from the entire chain I work at. And you know what? That's pretty great. That's why I can sit there. But the thing is, he was flinging rocks. And, like, the big thing, I was like, me and the person behind him was yelling at him. We both had to yell, stop. We were both screaming at him to stop, and he didn't. And then once he finally did, I was like, you can't do that. He's like, I don't care. I was like, I'm sorry, Boomer, but you're not going through. I ain't going to provide you our service. You can leave. And that's just how it is. And that's why I'm in, like, this position of power where I can do that. And it feels good, ultimately, because I hate the whole, you work in retail, you have to deal with people abuse you. Fuck that. I'm glad I'm at a place where I don't have to deal with that, you know? So I have this little modicum of power where I can sit there, this person's a bad person. Think about the guy today. The guy today, he had his granddaughter in the car. So I was like, it was a teachable moment, where his granddaughter ultimately probably was embarrassed that her grandfather was throwing this, like, childish temper tantrum. But I delivered the point home, where I was like, if you act like this, people aren't going to reward you. So hopefully the very small child in the car that day was just like, you know what, I don't want to be like my crazy family member. I want to be better than that. And ultimately, that's how it goes. It's like another story. This lady, she rolls up to me. Okay, this lady is exceptional. Like, I told everyone this story, and I think you viewer will enjoy the story too. Okay, this lady, she rolls up to me in her car, a van, with her kids in it, mind you. She has 2 kids. 2. She's banned from her workplace too. But she decides to think that she's so much better than me, that she can roll down her window and fling a cigarette butt at me. And I look at her and I was like, no. So I ask her to roll down her window. I walk up to her car, roll down your window. And she does. And I was like, you need to pick that up. And she's like, no. I was like, you need to pick that up now. She's like, no. I was like, okay, I'm not going to let you through. And she's like, oh, you must be racist because I'm black. It's just like, no. No, no, no. You're just a terrible person. I can call her a terrible person. So she refused to leave at that point. It's like, well, okay, I need to get somebody to remove you from the premises. So I called my boss. It's like, can I get authorization to get, like, the authorities to remove this person from the premises? I denied her service for throwing a cigarette butt at me. And while I was talking to my boss, she is screaming at me. My boss is on the phone, mind you. She's screaming at me, saying how horrible I am and how racist I am. As she's screaming at me, calling all these names, saying all this stuff about me, and my boss, like I said, my boss immigrated from Pakistan. He's like, you know, I know you're not racist. I know you're all that. You're not like that. I get it. It was my boss trying to comfort me, not to get me angry. And I wasn't saying a word to this person. I was just like, water, whatever. I wasn't saying a word to this crazy person. And eventually, she picked up the cigarette butt and left. And I was like, you know what? I feel good. And it's just like, my coworker is like, huh, why is everything stopped? He comes to me, he sees this lady screaming at me. And he's just like, oh, it's funny, me and my coworker now have this joke. He's like, wow, you know, you have a real racism problem, you know? I was like, no, I know I don't got a racism problem. I know my racism works just fine. And that's just how we interact. That's like an inside joke between me and my coworker now, just because this lady was just like completely insane. But that's like a thing with people. I don't understand why people can sit there and just like do something completely unacceptable and try to reject the blame of it away from them. It's like this animal instinct. I don't want to say the black person's an animal. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's the human nature where like a lot of people of every ethnicity do this, and it makes no sense to me. And I don't particularly get it, because it's like I am not like the most morally upright person. I'm not going to sit there and say I'm a moral paragon. I've made mistakes, you know? I'll be honest, I was kind of mean to a McDonald's manager once. But I had a bad day, and I looked at him, and I was like, where's my fucking McChicken? And, you know, that's bad on me. I'll sit there and say, the thing is, after he gave me my chicken, I was like, sorry, you know, I've had a long day, all this other stuff, you know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. That was me. Because I get the whole, like, you know, you're in a bad mood, take it out, whatever. But the fact that these people take it out and they don't apologize, it's just like puts me, at least I think I'm a little bit better than them, because I at least have a degree of self-awareness where I'm just like, look, I said something bad once to a McDonald's manager and I apologized to him. And it's just like, I even said you offered to give me the McChickens for free, and I was like, no, don't reward my shitty behavior. I'm going to pay for these McChickens. So ultimately, I think I handled that situation pretty well because I work retail and this thing's going to hit me. No, it isn't. Yay. Did I fuck myself? I fucked myself. Whatever. That's the thing. I ramble, and when I ramble, I don't play the game as well. I hope you forgive me, viewer. I'm, like, making a lot of progress, I understand. It's probably pretty frustrating, but I hope we have the podcast effect going on where I can just talk and have a good time. Like I said, creative outlet is creative outlet. But yeah, those are some work stories. And that's not all the work stories I have, because I have worked at a multitude of different places with a multitude of different kinds of clientele. Now, if I were, because I think I said before, I used to work at a care facility. And if I were going to tell a story about my time at the care facility, I have to be very careful because there's this thing in California, I think nationally, but I know it's in California for sure, HIPAA, patient privacy thing. It's probably a national regulation. So ultimately, if I'm going to tell any story, I have to be very careful about those. So I'm probably less inclined to talk about those so I don't get fined and all this other stuff. Whatever. But when you work retail, you can be less you can be more loose, when you work retail, because, retail people it's just like retail customers, the big thing with them is like, yeah, they walk into your facility and they sign this verbal contract that you can record them to make sure they're not stealing shit, so that's like a huge thing. Which reminds me, another crazy customer at my current workplace, he was being a jerkwad to me and my coworker. And I was, like, during, like, the height of COVID, I believe. Height of the virus, So, like, a big thing with him, like, my coworker did something. The guy didn't like that. So he goes to, like, me and my coworker, and he starts recording us. He pulls out his phone and starts recording us as he's screaming at us, calling us animals, stupid, and idiot, all this other stuff. And it's just like, to me, I'm just like, why are you recording yourself behaving like this? What are you going to do? Post it online? You're going to see us two standing here doing nothing, and the viewer of this online video that you're going to post is going to see the person recording the video screaming. It's like that semi-famous video that Psychic Pebbles did a animation of, where in the like Uber or Lyft driver, the "get out of my car" guy. And this lady posted the video of this guy screaming at her. But the thing is just like everyone publicly knows that this lady who recorded the video is actually the bad person. Lady who recorded and uploaded it is actually the bad person. So they all are defending the "get out of my car" guy. And the fact is, you can look up that video on YouTube and everything, and it's still there. So this lady still thinks that video is 100% appropriate and not completely batshit insane. That she can sit there and just mistreat this guy to the point where he's yelling at her and she's trying to instigate him to hit her so she can sue. So the fact that there are people out there who think that they can just do shit like that grinds my gears. And ultimately that goes back to my original point that started this tangent, as I'm glad I work at a workplace where I can say, you know what? No, I'm not going to deal with your insanity. You can leave. I'm not going to deal with you. And ultimately, I'm glad. I feel fortunate that I can work at a workplace that doesn't patronize me like that. To a degree. There's some flaws of my workplace. I'm not going to sit there and say my workplace is 100% perfect. But ultimately, I have this thing with my boss. My boss knows me. The regional manager, I've worked there 3.5 years. The regional manager knows me. The director of operations, the guy who handles the chain nationwide, knows me by name because I do such a good job, and customers leave reviews about me saying I do good. So, ultimately, I'm pretty well known in the company that I work for. So, if somebody's going to sit there and say that I denied them, they're going to look at it and go, you know what? Probably denied you for a good reason. Like flinging rocks at people, or threatening to shoot up a place, or throwing a cigarette butt at, stuff like that. So I'm fortunate where I work. Ultimately, I feel really good about that, because not everyone works at workplaces like that. Ooh. Is World 8 the last world? Or is World 12? I read there's 12 worlds in the ROM max, so there's probably 12 worlds. Let's give one more level a go, buckaroos? One of these. Come on. gonna be like an Italiano and me, come on! It's Mario's Italian and so am I, so come on! I'm going to celebrate my Italiano heritage and say, come on! Ooh! Oh god. That was a pattern that I had no hope in solving. I'm sorry, I'm still a little drunk. So, even though I peed in between episodes, and that if you're too young to drink or you don't drink, here's the thing about drinking, I'll enlighten you. Alcohol makes you pee. And when you pee, you get significantly more sober in between. That was my bad. I'm sorry about that fall. I fell and I can't get up. But that ends today's episode, so I'll see you all next time. Same place, same time. Adios.